Hello everyone, back tuning in to the 7th update for winter of 2016-2017. So we're getting well on into the updates now. We are past the halfway point. We reached halfway point a couple of weeks ago. It's going to be 10 of these updates, so we've only got another 3 to do after this one, interestingly. And it is time to get to the crunch time now for me. In the earlier part of the updates, we have a bit of a laugh, a bit of fun, but we get towards the latter stage of the updates in November, and we do have to start getting serious, or certainly I do, because I've got to come up with the winter forecast quite shortly, just in a few weeks. Actually, I've got the date now that we are going to release because of its winter 2016-2017 forecast, and that date will be, drumroll, that date will be Thursday, the 1st of December, probably quite late in the day, sometime in the evening, maybe around 6-7 o'clock in the evening on Thursday, the 1st of December. So all of these winter updates are building up to that winter forecast. Each one of these updates, I've explained this in previous videos, each one of these updates is important in its own terms, because the things that we look at are important within the terms of each individual winter update. But the bigger point is that it's all building up to make the forecast. Each one of these updates is building a picture, allowing the patterns to emerge, and eventually we're going to arrive at the end of November, and that's when I'll have to come up with the forecast for Thursday, the 1st of December 2016, when we'll release the Gaz this winter 2016-2017 forecast. So it's all getting very exciting now as we start to ramp up towards the final push of the updates, which comes in November. But I'll get on with the 7th update for you in a moment. As always with these winter updates, we're going to have an eclectic mix of different things that I think are important to go into winter forecasts at the end of the season. So we're having a look at ENSO, we're having a look at the sea surface temperature anomalies in the rest of the Pacific and the Atlantic. We'll have a look at solar activity, see what the tracker's done, and also have a look at how the snow cover has progressed over the past week across Siberia and Scandinavia. I've got a bit of a headache, actually, in terms of what's happening in Scandinavia at the moment. So I'll talk about that as we get into the update. But before we get on with all of that, just to say about the ads, there's links to articles all over the pages. Have a browse through widgets and click through the links if there's any articles that you're interested in. You'll be helping us to pay for our website. There's also video ads on most of the pages, which open up content when you watch them close back up again. It does help to pay for gazwithits.com. Just say it's going to be quite a long video, of course, so if you can't watch it all in one go, I won't say I'm going to keep it under half an hour, because I haven't been able to keep any of the updates under half an hour so far, so we'll just see how long it goes on for. But if you can't watch it all in one go, don't worry, it will be kept on the Winter Updates page indefinitely. It'll be there forever, or as long as the website is on the internet anyway, it'll be on that page. There'll be a written post with the 7th update on the Winter Updates page later on today. So probably be placed on the Winter Updates page this evening with a written post, and it'll be there forever. So you can come back and watch it on demand whenever you want it or whenever you need it. Just say later on this afternoon we'll do the 2nd written update for Christmas. Started about a couple of weeks ago. We got the 2nd one coming up later on this afternoon. And that's all in preparation for, of course, very exciting, on the 1st of November, we'll begin the video updates for Christmas. Just a bit of fun, but they'll be starting just over a week's time. 2nd written post of Christmas coming up at Gazovis later this afternoon. Right, let's get on with the 7th update. We're going to start off with the oceans today. So this was how things looked last week when we did the 6th update. In terms of the oceans, 3 areas we're specifically interested in. We've got the northeastern Pacific Ocean up there. We've got the northern Atlantic Ocean just here. And then, of course, we've got, you know what that is, the ENSO region, which is the equatorial Pacific from Peru over there to Indonesia over here. And where we've got this blue water, that is the signature of weak La Nina, ENSO neutral to borderline weak La Nina. So that's how things were looking last week when we did the 6th update. Let's see the very latest, see what's happened in the past week. So dealing with the Northern Pacific first of all, so that's how things looked last week in this part of the Pacific Ocean. If we go through to the latest, I think we've had a bit of cooling actually up here in the northeastern part of the Pacific Ocean. Now it is still significantly warmer than average, but it's definitely cooled down a little bit up here. Typically, it is a very cold place. Over the past 2 or 3 years, we've had loads of warm water or warm surface water up here, which is quite unusual because typically this is a fairly cold part of the oceans. So, although it has cooled a little bit over the past week, I think once we get through to winter, we are still going to have significantly warmer than average sea surface temperature anomalies up here. And that doesn't really help us with getting a cold winter, because what that tends to do is send the jet stream across Canada and America a bit like that, or maybe that's a bit too far south. So what it tends to do is send the jet stream a bit like that, and then the jet stream comes out into the Atlantic and blows up and runs across into the UK and Europe. So it is quite a cold signature or signal for northern eastern part of America. For us, not quite so much, unless we've got some sort of blocking up here to force this jet stream south, of course. And if that was to happen, then the strong jet stream, which would be coming out of America, will go on a southerly track somewhere like that. But over the past 2 or 3 years, this warm water has actually been quite a warm signal for the UK and for Europe. Talking of the UK and Europe, let's just have a look and see what's happened there. So go back to last week again. There was a situation last week. Come forward. And very little change, really. This cold blob has re-emerged in the northern part of the Atlantic Ocean. It's not as extensive as it was this time last year. And the tropical Atlantic still looks fairly warm, actually. So we don't have a tripole. We don't have the warm and cold and warm tripole that we need to get a negative NAO. But the North Atlantic is in a weaker NAO state compared to what I've had over the past couple of years. So it's very similar, really, to what we said in the NAO forecast. We did that at the start of the, or in the middle of the summer, actually. We said that probably the Atlantic was still going to be set up for a positive NAO, but only just, and really it's back towards neutral NAO condition. And the Atlantic generally shouldn't be as big a driver this year as it has been over the past 2 or 3 winters when we've seen very strong zonality. Excuse me. Now, coming back to the Pacific Ocean, or the equatorial Pacific Ocean, that situation through the equatorial part of the Pacific, this time last week on the 13th of October. Let's have a look at the latest. Cooling has taken place. Now, we aren't in a particularly strong La Nina at all, but I think we can say that over the past week there has been a definitive cooling across all ENSO regions, from Peru over there to towards Indonesia over here. So this is still very weak La Nina, borderline neutral to weak La Nina. It's on the threshold, on the periphery of being either ENSO neutral but on the cold side, or very weak, very minor La Nina condition. But certainly over the past week, we can say, particularly in the eastern portion of the equatorial Pacific, cooling has taken place. Let's have a look at the Southern Oscillation Index. This is an index that's reflecting the state of the atmosphere in the Southern Ocean. So it's looking at the atmospheric pressures between Northern Australia and Darwin through to Tahiti in the central part of the Southern Pacific Ocean. Now, you remember last week we was getting a lot of very positive numbers when we did the 6th update. The atmosphere via the SOI had gone more towards El Nino. So just quickly recapping on that, El Nino in terms of the atmosphere, in terms of the SOI, is affected by very negative numbers. So when you get a lot of negativity in the SOI, tells you that the atmosphere is in a reflective of an El Nino state. When the atmosphere goes very positive, you get very positive numbers, tells you that the atmosphere is reflective of La Nina. Now, what happened when we did the 6th update is that we had lots of negative numbers. So, for example, on the 8th of October, we went down to just minus 0.84, but that heralded the start of a bit of a crash. So by the 12th, we was down to minus 13. By the 13th, we was down to minus 18. By the 14th of October, we've gone down to minus 25. That is very reflective in terms of the atmospheric setup. Remember, these indexes are reflecting the atmosphere, not driving anything. They just tell you what the atmosphere is doing. So minus 25 in terms of a Southern Oscillation Index is telling you that the atmosphere very reflective of El Nino. So that takes us up to the 15th, where we stopped, at minus 12 at that point. The latest is that well, we're back to trading positive and negative numbers, really. So on the 17th, on my birthday, 17th of October, we went to plus 12, and on the 18th, we was at plus 4, so that's reflective of La Nina. But then on the 19th and 20th, we went negative again, minus 4 and minus 3. Not the crash that we had the week before, but just sort of slightly reflective of El Nino on those days. And on the 21st, we went slightly reflective of La Nina at plus 4. Latest is 22nd, slightly reflective of El Nino again at minus 6.1. Whilst we're trading numbers like that, there's not a lot going to happen, really, in the equatorial Pacific. We're neither going to swing out of La Nina and go to El Nino. We don't have to worry about that, but we're not going to definitively crash down into La Nina either, because the atmosphere and the oceans are not in sync with one another, such as we would see if it's getting day after day of very positive numbers. Then you would be able to say that the atmosphere is very reflective of La Nina, along with the ocean, which we know does have those cold sea surface temperature anomalies. That would allow the La Nina to sort of snowball. We're not going to be able to do that whilst we're trading these numbers. So it looks like we're just going to stay around in so neutral, borderline La Nina type condition. That's the way the models are trending as well. All the long-range season models have updated. So this is the latest ENSO forecast, for instance, from the CFS V2. And we can see that the temperature scale is on the side. So La Nina is anything from here down. Basically, it's from minus 0.5 degrees or lower as the anomaly, and that's where we've been, really, on the borderline of neutral, which is just here, to slight La Nina conditions, and that's expected to continue through to the end of the year. This is January 2017, just here. If anything, a little bit of cooling is expected to take place, so this is into weak La Nina territory, this area just here. We may just about get a weak La Nina designated. To get these ENSO events designated, what you have to do is see the temperature anomaly going to or below minus 0.5 degrees below average. So you have to get to there or lower, and do it over 5 tri-monthly periods. So whether we quite pull that off, I'm not sure. We might just about get a really weak La Nina designated, but it is a weak one. And we do know that, because we looked at this in the earlier updates, I think it was updates 2 and 3, that weak La Nina is possibly the best ENSO condition to tie in with the chance of a blocked and cold winter for the UK. If you want to know more about that, I won't go over it now because I haven't got time. If you want to know more about it, check out the earlier updates. I think it was update 2 and possibly into update 3. But weak La Nina is pretty good if you want a cold winter. But we are only just at weak La Nina and it's sort of borderline from ENSO neutral to weak La Nina. So this will present me with a bit of a headache, really, when I come to do the winter forecast, which won't be too many weeks away. Of course, this is the ENSO forecast from the ECMWF model. Here's the temperature scale just here, dates just there. So you see that up to the end of the year anyway, we are essentially in weak La Nina, sort of ENSO neutral to borderline weak La Nina condition. Interestingly, next year it's trying to lift things up in towards an El Nino by next summer, but we won't worry about that. And in terms of the Jamstack, again, very similar. All the models are in agreement now for ENSO. Again, temperature scale just there, so that's where we have to get to, like the minimum we have to get to have a weak La Nina event. Really want to go down to there. And the dates on the bottom, you can see, again, we are just, I'll get rid of that, we are just on the border between ENSO neutral and weak La Nina. Actually, for Jamstack, we possibly wouldn't get a weak La Nina designated with that, because I think by the time the red line, which is the trend, is beginning to lift up, and that happens before the end of the year, back towards ENSO neutral, by the time that happens, we probably haven't had the 5 tri-monthly periods. So it's going to be on a knife edge whether we have a weak La Nina or not, whether it's just ENSO neutral all being on the colder side. But I'm not expecting any great deviation between now and the end of the year. But CFS-V2 is right, we might see a little bit more cooling through to the end of the year, and that will very much be determined by the way the atmosphere behaves over the next few weeks. If we start to see quite a bit of positivity of the Southern Oscillation Index, we'll know that the atmosphere is beginning to get itself into more of a La Nina type state. Atlantic hurricane season next, on to something different, albeit it does tie in with the warmer than average sea surface temperature that we've got in the tropical Atlantic. There have been no real developments over the past week, so when we did the 6th update, these were the numbers we had, and we've still got them this season overall. We've had 15 total depressions, 14 storms, 6 hurricanes, and 3 major category 3 or above hurricanes. This is going to be the biggest hurricane season since 2012, although we aren't going to beat 2012, I don't think. So it's been a fairly robust hurricane season, and that perhaps does increase our chances a little bit of a colder winter. Talk more about that in a couple of weeks' time. Have a look at the QBO next. I don't want to dwell on this. There's a bit of mystery last week because I showed you a chart that I found from September and compared it to what I thought was the latest from the University of Berlin website in terms of the QBO. Actually, I think what's happened there is that the QBO just hasn't updated since that first chart that I showed you, and it still hasn't updated, actually. So this that you see just here is the quantity of the QBO. We've got the westerly QBO just here. We've got the easterly QBO just here. Are we easterly? Are we westerly with the QBO? I think we're westerly, but it's a very complicated one, and we should be easterly. We should be doing something like that, and like that, and again like that for this winter. So what the QBO has done is very unusual and unique, and actually it'll either be in the next update, which will be the 8th update, or it might be in the 9th update. Stuart Markham from Chorley Weather, our good friend Stu, has sent a very interesting chart for the QBO that is reanalyzing the QBO right the way back to the start of the 20th century. And you'll be able to see just how unusual the current QBO state is when we reveal that chart either in the 8th or probably more likely the 9th winter 16-17 update. But there will be, in November, there will be a lot more coming up about the QBO. solar activity next. So this is the solar disk on our side of the disk today from solarham.net. Solar activity is officially designated as very low. Again, it's been an ongoing thing through these winter updates. We've had most of them have been delivering either low or very low levels of solar activity. Just a couple of sunspot regions really on our side of the solar disk today. We know we're in the cooling part, or the declining part, I should say, of the solar cycle. And this is the Gas Weather's winter update daily solar tracker from our good friend James Ackrill. James has been tracking solar activity since the start of the season. This orange line is the most important one because that is showing you the peaks and troughs of the daily sunspot activity. So when we did the 6th winter 16-17 update, solar activity was declining down to around there. You see it over the past week, it's continued to decline. This is the very latest, just here, that orange spot just there is where we are up to date. And you see that generally solar activity is moving downwards. If you have a look at the thick trend lines, you can see that when we started the updates back in September, it was around here when we did the first update. At that point, most of the trend lines were moving upwards. Then they plateau through September, and you see now the trend lines, excuse me, again, the trend lines are generally moving downwards. We are in the declining phase of solar cycle 24, so these days here that have no sunspots at all will get more common over the coming few months and next couple of years. As we go into solar minimum, we will get increasing number of days appearing that have no sunspots. So by the time we reach the actual solar minimum, which is probably going to be around 2019, we will probably have about a year perhaps of very little sunspot activity, and that will continue into the start of the next solar cycle 25. Now, we look at solar activity. I explain this all the time, but I have to assume that people are perhaps watching the 7th update, haven't seen the other updates. So the reason we look at solar activity is that we have weak levels of sunspot activity, low levels of solar flux. What we get in that period is increased risk of blocking across the northern hemisphere, and particularly on our side of the North Pole. It perhaps isn't the case so much for America and for Asia, but for us here in Europe, UK, across the North Atlantic, there is a connection between weak solar activity and increasing chance of northern blocking. Northern blocking is our route to colder winter weather. So essentially, weak sunspot activity, solar minimums, are more associated with an increased chance of colder winters for the UK and Europe. It's not quite as simple as that, because there are always exceptions, but that's the general idea. So if you want a cold winter, this winter you want to see the sunspot numbers continue to decline. You don't want to get a sudden ramp up. We will have a look at the solar tracker. Actually, we're going to have a look at it next week. What's going to be happening next week? I'll just quickly talk about next week. We'll be doing the second seasonal model update next week. So the 8th winter update will be in a couple of weeks' time. But on the blog, we'll have a written post next week, which will include the Gas Weather solar tracker. So we won't be missing out on next week's tracker. That will be on the blog. I'll talk about that at the end of the video. Now, Arctic sea ice, I wouldn't normally be looking at this point in the season, because normally we'd be rebounding very much now from the minimum of Arctic sea ice. But something really unusual is happening this year, so I'm just going to very quickly talk you through this. This green dash line is the death spiral year of 2012. So just here is where we reached the minimum Arctic sea ice extent of the melt season of 2012, and then of course very gradually the refreeze took place and the Arctic sea ice moved upwards. I'm not going to put all the other years in there, we don't need to look at them, but I am going to put in this year, 2016, and that's indicated by this red line. And look what's happened Now, we didn't reach the death spiral of 2012 in terms of our melt season, maximum melt moment, if you like, when we reached our minimum sea ice extent. We didn't reach 2012, and we did move up quite robustly in the first couple of weeks after we reached the minimum of Arctic sea ice. But just lately, it's been very warm in the Arctic. And that means that what has happened is that the refreeze has kind of stalled, really, across the Arctic. And now we are actually on a par, maybe even ever so slightly worse, in terms of Arctic sea ice, than the death spiral of 2012, can you believe? So it really is a very, very slow refreeze of the North Pole this year. It's taking a very long time to refreeze that sea ice that melted back in the summer and into September. And yes, it's true that right now we are just ever so slightly worse in terms of Arctic sea ice than even the death spiral of 2012. It will continue to refreeze through the remainder of the winter, but my word, it's a slow process to get that going. And of course, there is the theory that when we see lots of ice melting in the North Pole, it possibly associates back to an increased risk of blocking. Let's have a look at Siberian snow cover next. So this was how things were looking across Russia and Siberia last week when we did the 6th update. This is where we got snow cover across Siberia and Russia. This area is where we were snow free. Let's have a look at the latest. There's been a big increase across Russia and also potentially across Scandinavia. So this is from Friday, October 21st, and the snow line was into central parts of Russia by that point. All of this area now covered by snow. Big increase in the week. And also there is some snow cover here on this chart from the National Ice Centre and NOAA. There is some snow cover across Scandinavia as well. Now, last week, I won't go on about this too long, but last week I explained that it's really Scandinavia that we're interested in, not so much Russia, actually, although it's always interesting and fun to see the snow advance across Russia. It's really Scandinavia that we like to look at when we do these updates, because if we get early snow cover there, it can be a sign that the atmosphere is beginning to behave a little bit abnormally and possibly moving towards a colder winter setup. So in fact, we have got some snow cover across the northern parts of Scandinavia in particular, or seemingly has some snow cover across the northern parts of Scandinavia in particular. Is quite interesting. Let's just compare this back to past years. I know that most of you like to do this, so I'm just going to get the charts in order. So while I do that, I'll perhaps hit the pause button, have a little drink of water. I'll see you in a second. Okay, that's it, and we are ready to roll. Just make sure that we are recording again. Yes, we are. So I've got the charts in order, and I'll give my throat a little bit of a drink. So, this was how things were looking on the 21st of October, 1998. Go right way back to 1998 with the archive at the National Ice Centre. And I think we're ahead, actually, of 1998 in terms of Russian snow cover, and possibly on a par, or maybe a little bit of ahead in terms of Scandinavia as well. We're also ahead of 1999, I think you can see that quite definitively, and probably ahead of the year 2000 also. 2001 maybe has a little bit more snow cover across Russia than we've got right now, but there's a great deal in it. 2002, we are below 2002. That was a very rapid increase of snow cover across both Russia and Scandinavia in 2002. This was 2003, and clearly we are well ahead of Russian and Scandinavian snow cover compared to 2003. I think 2004 has a little bit more snow cover across Russia than we've got now, but we're ahead of 2005, we're behind 2000, 2006. We're also behind 2007, or I should say we're ahead of 2007. And we're ahead of 2008 as well, very clearly and definitively. 2009 is an interesting year. We are well ahead of 2009 in terms of Russian snow cover, but I talked about this last week in the 6th update. Notice how, although there's not all that much snow across central parts of Russia, this point in 2009, there's quite a lot across Scandinavia. That was a very interesting year and did precede the cold winter of 2009-2010. And very similar things happened in 2010 as well. So this is 21st of October 2010, where you see, again, we are ahead of snow cover in Russia, from the central part of Russia, but we probably have more snow cover across Scandinavia at this point in 2010. Again, that precedes the cold winter of 2010-2011. Well ahead of snow cover in 2011. And also well ahead of 2012, although just after this point, remember this is 21st of October 2012, just after this point, there was a very, very rapid increase of snow cover across Russia, even into Europe and through Scandinavia by the end of October and start of November 2012. So that was quite an interesting year as well, preceding, of course, that cold winter of 2012-2013. And then getting to the latest years, which have all been very good for rapid advance of snow cover. So we're behind 2013, that situation now, situation in 2013. Also behind 2014 and behind 2015 as well. Although at this point in 2015 there was hardly any snow cover across Scandinavia, but we are behind Russian snow cover at this point. Now, the problem we've got is whether this snow cover that we are seeing across Scandinavia, and I'll just show you the chart again, this is the latest for Scandinavia, is that snow that we're seeing really there, or is it an anomaly with these maps? That's the question we've got to ask ourselves, because this chart is from Canada. I think it's from Tropical Tidbits, and this is snow cover with sea surface temperature anomalies. Don't worry about the sea surface temperature anomalies. What I want you to focus on is snow cover. So clearly we've got agreement between NOAA and the Canadian Meteorological Agency in terms of snow cover there across Russia. That is good agreement, and that's all in line. But over here across Scandinavia, we see very little, if any, snow cover yet across Scandinavia, whereas we know that on the NOAA and National Ice Centre charts, which are these ones just here, we know that actually that is showing snow. So that shows snow across Scandinavia right now, whereas that doesn't. And if we have a look at the observations from I think this is from Sweden, we can see that many of the weather stations in Sweden are showing that there isn't any snow. So quite what's going on there, I'm not sure. If anybody is watching this and lives in either Norway or Sweden, and they've got snow falling outside their door and snow on the ground, do email me at gavsweathers@gmail.com, or you can get in touch with me via my website or via my YouTube page. It'd be really interesting to know exactly what is going on across Scandinavia, because I'm not sure with that one quite what is happening. Have we seen early snow cover across central northern parts of Norway and Sweden, or have we not? I am very confused, to say the least, about what's going on. Finally, I'm just going to leave you with a bit of a sneak peek about what we're going to look at in the 8th update. Our good friend James Acril has been looking at October blocking scenarios and seeing how they might play out as we get through to the winter. So this is when October heights are to the south. So essentially we've got blocking to the south of the UK in the month of October. And then James will be looking at when we've got blocking areas of high pressure over the UK, and seeing what the knock-on effect of that could be as we get through into the winter. Then he's had a look at blocking to the north of the UK, and again seeing what the effect could be on the winter. And then Octobers that have Scandinavian highs, and that might be the most important one for this year, because I think we have seen a lot of high pressure across Scandinavia this October, So that could be the key one out of all of these scenarios that we have to focus on. And also James has looked at years that have blocking over Greenland. There's a huge amount of research that goes in with that, and I won't have time to go through all of the extensive research James has looked at, but we will touch on those other scenarios, and I think we'll have the reanalysis chart for October 2016 by the time we do the 8th update, so we'll know exactly where the high pressure has been sitting this October. I think it's going to be centred over Scandinavia, and that's the one we'll particularly have to focus on. So I'll get on with that for the 8th update. We will pick right up with the 8th update where we're leaving off right now. So that'll be at the start of the 8th update that we have a look and see what the potential implications of the high pressure that we've seen this October, as I think going to be associated with Scandinavian high pressure. We'll see what the implications of that could be when we do the 8th update. Right, that's it for the 7th update. We've gone on for 35 minutes. So, again, we've gone past the half-hour mark, but there's been a lot to discuss and digest for this update. Hope you've enjoyed it and found it interesting. As I said, we aren't at the end yet, we are getting towards the final stages of these updates. Still a lot to talk about. And I think those final three, the 8th, 9th and 10th updates that we do in November, are going to be very critical in terms of producing the GasWeathers.com Winter 1670 forecast on the 1st of December. Right, that's all for now. So the 8th winter update will be with you in a couple of weeks' time. Not quite sure what the date is for that. I think it's around the maybe 6th or 7th of November. But next week, the last Sunday of October, I think that's the 29th or 30th of October, we will be doing the second seasonal model roundup. So get all the models together, have a look at them next week for only the second time this season. We'll get them all together and see what the model consensus is. But you won't miss out on the winter updates entirely, because we will be having a quick look on the blog next Sunday. We'll have a look at the tracker and snow cover across Russia as well. Later on today, we've got the second written Christmas update coming up, so come back to the website this afternoon. This video is going to be placed on the Winter 16-17 updates page with a written summary of everything we've discussed, and that'll be with you probably this evening. Alright, that's it for now, and at 37 minutes, all it remains is to say thanks for watching. Bye for now.